Andre the Beast. Andre the Beast. Change our lives. Andre the Beast. Yeah, 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 yeah. He tapped in at the break of dawn. Told us King keep pushing on. Ice bath drip in the miles fell long. But your words kept us locked in strong.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Another exciting show, and definitely another exciting guest. Today, you gotta put everything down for this show. Everything. Now, let me go here with today's episode. I've had over 2,000 guests since first airing the show. And outstanding guests, I must say, but not like today. I read a bio that I thought I had that beast mindset. I had to go back and I had to look in the mirror really and say, you ain't touched this woman by any means. Let me go deeper with this lady. I got to give her flowers. She's been everywhere from the journey started in Pittsburgh, Arizona, now in the Pacific Ocean, Hawaii, the Big Island. But let's go even deeper. Imagine all of these titles: actress, author, filmmaker, film director. Did I say author, wife, mother, grandmother, entrepreneur, written all over the place. But there was a journey to get to these destinations. And we're going to talk about those journeys. And more importantly, we're going to talk about what I call the dark seasons in her life and how she was able to keep that beast mindset and navigate. And more importantly, working on a new project that we won't go too deep into, but it has to deal with echo, that inner voice. Let's welcome to the show the beautiful Miss Kimber Leigh. How you doing, baby girl?
Aloha. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and you're very handsome, and I love your studio.
Thank you. Wow. Aloha. That's right. You're in Hawaii.
Yes.
I need to greet you with the correct pronunciation. Aloha. So before we get started, because your resume, like I said, is truly impressive. I mean, I've never witnessed a person with so many attributes behind their name. Before we get started, tell the viewers a little about who you are before we get into what I call the dark seasons in life in your career.
Thank you. I am a multi-award-winning filmmaker, director, actress. I am also an author, a TV host, a model. I just got off the runway in Miami for Swim Week a few days ago.
Wow.
So I consider myself every woman, as I said earlier, because there's so many different versions of us. And if we don't seek those, then we don't do them the service we came here to be.
You sound like spiritual transformation. That's what it sounds like. Am I close?
You're probably spot on.
Okay. So let's start this transformation from the little girl in Pittsburgh. Tell me what life was like for you. Let's go from state to state to the ocean. Let's start in Pittsburgh. What was it like for you growing up?
Pittsburgh was the very dark season in my life. I wrote about the story in my book, Greta Garbage. It's a true story. I was born and raised into a extremely dysfunctional home. My mom was a raging alcoholic drug addict, and my father was working 3 jobs because there were 4 children, and he had to manage the home financially. He had no idea for the 15 years of my life that my mother was a raging alcoholic drug addict. He didn't know that we were receiving daily beatings and horrific living arrangements because we were beat. And then if you tell anybody, if you think the beating you got was bad, you wait till that happens. So I lived in constant fear. But at the age of 7, I was getting the most severe beating ever. My mother was reaching under my mattress to grab the a bottle of vodka. And as she was drinking it, she was beating me with the other hand and just pounding me with the bottle in her fists. And I laid there and I said, Heavenly Father, if you're real, please either take her or take me, but I can't take one more beating. And I closed my eyes and I was curled in the fetal position. And when I opened my eyes, I was standing in the middle of the street in Pittsburgh, and it was snowing and it was ice cold. I had no shoes on, but I had this beautiful white flowing gown. And I was in the midst of the best way I can describe an ultimate energy, an ultimate light. It encompassed and engulfed me, and I was shown my entire life. I was shown that I was going to be a flight attendant, that I was going to be an actress, that all these things were going to happen for me. But my job and we call it kuleana on the island, which means responsibility. My responsibility was to remember the light, to share the message of the light, and to always remember that I was part of it and it was part of me.
I am shocked, almost, and getting ready to cry. I can envision it, but I don't want to envision it. I see this little girl on the bed. I see everything that you're talking about. But my question here is, I don't know if you can answer this, but I got to ask it because it's in my head. Did you may or may not suffer somewhat of a near death experience because you somewhat manifest out of your body during that particular trauma into a warm, safe place? At that age, you probably don't remember thoroughly what happened, I guess, but how did you go from there to the light, to that particular incident? Was it a near death experience or something?
It's interesting that you asked that. And when I was writing my book, I had to really dig deep into that experience. What was it for me? And I came to the conclusion that it was an alive experience instead of an NDE. It was the opposite of that. I felt like I became alive, like I have never been that alive in my life. It wasn't anything about death. And then after the heavens opened up, or the energy opened up and I was in it, I was told I had to go I had to go back to that room, and I begged and pleaded. And the next thing I knew, I opened my eyes and she was still beating on me. And out of all the beatings, I got beat every day for 15 years until my mom passed. But that particular one, I did feel like I wanted to die. Um, so to answer your question, I wrote in my book that it was an alive experience.
You mentioned the beatings. You mentioned your father working constantly. How are you? You're not the only child, correct?
No, I have another older brother who's still living. My 2 younger brothers succumbed to suicide during that type of dysfunction. Because why the light never came to them, I don't know. But yeah, so there were 4 siblings. I was the second oldest in line, and I was the only girl, and I had 3 brothers.
Did your brother also experience the light?
That is alive.
Yes.
I don't, in a different way. He became a severe alcoholic. He was drinking, like my mother, and as an adult, a gallon of vodka a day. And doing drugs, and how he's even alive today is beyond me. But I would venture to say, as an older adult, because he was drinking his pain away and using drugs, I think he came to the light during his detox. So he is very spiritual today, but he suffered for decades with disease of alcoholism.
How did your father not know that his wife, your mother, was suffering from these issues? I'm trying to imagine a woman doing almost like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. She had to be able to control something to hide this from your father when he came home from work.
Well, it was, I believe her children were rescuing her. I mean, you know how they say Stockholm syndrome, you get closest to your abuser.
Yeah.
Um, my father, I'm sure, no, he was aware of the problems with her emotionally, because they at that and that back in those days they would put women in psych wards and do shock treatments so that they could forget that they were alcoholic or forget that they had issues. So my father knew that she had emotional issues. He didn't know, though, that she was using and beating, like she would use my body to exchange it for drugs or drink, or because she didn't even drive a car. So there was so much he didn't know. And I loved my dad so much. I did not want to hurt him even more than he had been hurt by his marriage, to let him know what a failure she was.
Let me go back and make sure I heard you correctly. Your mother used your body to get drugs.
And favors from men, yes.
So your mom was exposing you to grown men sexually to feed her addiction.
Unfortunately. And the interesting part is I only have recollection of bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
Thank God. I believe that was the greatest gift that I could have received, because had I had full recollection, just the bits and pieces that I have, as soon as it comes, like right now, I don't ever think about it, but right now it's like, okay, no, I can't go there.
Like, how old were you when she started allowing men to enter your home and do these things to you? And more importantly, was she allowing it to be done to your brothers?
Now that I don't know, because two of them died at 14 and 15. I don't remember the
Okay.
ages. They were young. I was around 5 to 7 years old and beyond. And my father worked, because he worked three jobs. One of the jobs was night. He worked the night shift at the U.S. steel mill. So he was never home. And she would invite the neighbors in, her brother-in-laws. Yeah, it was like a revolving door. And again, like I said, I didn't want to hurt my father even more, because he was the total opposite of who she was. I lived in a dynamics that was just a polar opposite.
You would think, you would think that someone in that community knew something was not right with grown men coming in and out of your home and seeing your mother's dysfunction. I think what I'm trying to say is, did anybody step up?
No, no grandparents, not the church. I was born and raised Catholic, so I would go to confession, because that's one of the things that we had to do. And I would share, and nothing. Everybody, it seems as if during that time, everybody was involved in nefarious acts against children. Nobody wanted to stir the pot. Nobody wanted to say anything. I begged my grandparents, I begged aunts and uncles, and unfortunately, it was just something that I had to endure. Now, I will say this about that, as because I'm a mature woman now, I wouldn't trade any of that because so many gifts came from those beatings. The gift of detail orientation, because if I was cleaning something and she didn't like it, she would destroy it all and make me do it all over again because there was one detail that I missed. So she taught me detail orientation. She taught me observation. I can observe by feeling because the sound or the energy of her coming into my room, I could literally feel it. So if I'm in a room today, I can go, no, yep, no, because I got that gift, a great gift of discernment through energy and observation. So there were many things that had I been rescued, I probably wouldn't have some of the gifts that I have today, and they're priceless and you can't teach them.
I can't believe that you would go into a church, a Catholic church, give a confession, and it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. And that's where I believe my spiritual transformation came from, because it's a building full of people that, my opinion only, have no spirituality.
They just
Uh,
go through the motions, showing up.
it's an organization that shows up.
Let's go here. You declare a lot of love for your father. When do you acknowledge to him what had taken place?
I don't believe we ever did. My father died when he was 77. My mom died at 39. Um, because my dad lost two of his children through this dysfunction, they both committed suicide in his house. We wanted to protect him. Now, look, my dad wasn't fault free, but for a man who is a provider doing that for his family, that is his job. He was just a good man. And also, too, I do love my mother. It took me many decades to come to the conclusion that I do love her. She was also a victim of circumstances, because back then there were no rehabs, there were no counseling, there wasn't any resources available to help her. She was just thrown in psych wards and given meds. And back then they gave women drugs that contained and like cocaine and other prescriptions that would keep them going during the day, and then sleeping pills at night. And it was just a continued circle. But because it came through the medical prescription, it was legal, it was okay, there was nothing wrong with it, but it was ruining the lives of these women. I'm sure my mother wasn't the only one during that time.
You mentioned something here that I have a friend that's dealing with the same situation with her mom, and she's now a caregiver of her mom. Somewhat of the same situation. Funny how I tell people we all are connected. Our
Mm-hmm.
stories are somewhat the same, but at the end, it's always some type of trauma, some type of um, lesson, and a recovery process, and a forgiveness process, and then a spiritual journey. So let me go back for a minute here. You said you love your mom. That's powerful based on everything that you just shared with us, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot more. But based on what you share with us, did you, before she died, were you able to come to grips with her one on one about what happened, and say, okay, I release you from this?
So the last time I saw my mom, she was leaving for the fifth and last time. She always ran away. with one of the men from the neighborhood. My father would always forgive her and bring her back. But this last time, I begged her, this is so bizarre. I begged her to take me with her, to please not leave me behind. And she told me, I wish you were never born. I never wanted you. And she walked out the door, left me alone. And I was little. My dad was at work. I don't know where my siblings were. I think because she had beat me, I was home from school because of an incident like that. And she walked out the door. And the next time I heard about my mom was, I, I don't even want to say this, but I had gotten into trouble. I was like 14, got into trouble and was looking for a place to stay. And I ended up, my friend goes, come into my house, I'll house you. And walk in there. And he said, I have to go to work. Don't touch anything. He left. All of a sudden, the door comes crashing down. It's the FBI. The house was full of drugs and guns. And they arrested me and put me in jail. And I called my mom because I was too afraid to call my dad. I didn't want to disappoint him. I called my mother. She was living with this other guy, and she came to the jail and she told me, my name is Pat. You do not refer to me as your mother. You sleep on the floor and you get out of here the next day. That was the last time I saw her. The time after that, I got a phone call that she had hemorrhaged to death from drinking alcohol and died in a hotel room by herself. And I did ask my dad about that. I said, why did she die alone? And he said she called every weekend after she left. She was dying. And we just thought it was another one of those moments. So I never reconciled with my mother. I never, and here's another thing that I want to share. If I saw her standing in front of me today, the first emotion that I would have is intense fear.
Wow. I'm sorry for all of that you went through. I really am. My question here, she passes away. How does that usually, because it's like you said, Stockholm syndrome, almost like for people that don't know what Stockholm syndrome is, you're attached to your captive,
Mhm.
the Beauty and the Beast. How did your life change from that moment? Because you're still young. You're what, 14, 15 years old when she passes away?
So she ran away, and then I was probably 16, 16 years old. And she passed, and my father looked at me and said, well, you have to be the one taking care of the household now because your mother's not here anymore, and you have to take care of your brothers. And I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this my whole life. He didn't know it, but I had already been doing that. And now that she was passed, I didn't want that. I couldn't do it. So I ran away.
So you didn't want to be the matriarch.
No, no.
So you run away. Why do
Mhm.
you run? Where do you run to? Is that when you ran into the guy's house? They got busted?
No, no. I ran away to West Palm Beach, Florida with some of my friends, and I had gotten a job. I had an apartment. I felt free for the first time in my life. I knew I had hurt my dad deeply because now his wife abandoned him and died, and his two sons were still alive. But here I felt like I'm following in my mother's footsteps and I'm doing the same thing as her.
Mhm.
So I didn't I didn't want to face him, and he sent private detectives after me, and they brought me all the way back home to my father. He opened the door, he looked at me and he said, she can't come in here. And he shut the door, and I became homeless.
What the hell?
Yes.
Now that you've gone through the transformation, you've gone through the pain, why do you think he did all that for? You're gonna hire detectives and then bring you back and then close the door. Did a reflection of his wife all of a sudden reveal itself through you?
I believe it was an old school, old school discipline, an old school way to discipline me, to teach me a lesson, which I did learn. It's wrong to run away. I saw my mother do it over and over, and that was the only thing I learned. And so I did what she did. When he brought me back, it was clear he was standing there. But why didn't he do it to her? I think would be my question. Why did he allow her to come back time and time again, but he didn't allow me? And I think perhaps at that point he had had enough and wanted to teach me a huge lesson that to this day still resonates.
How does it resonate? Like, what did you learn from that? Like,
that that you don't, when things get tough, you don't run away, you stick it out, you fight. If you're right, you fight for your rights.
mhm.
If you're wrong, you take responsibility, accountability. Those are other gifts that I have. So both my parents taught me wonderful gifts and very difficult lessons for me. Because think about it, if I never had accountability, what kind of woman would I be? Just running, running, running every time something doesn't work out, or
This
I
is
don't feel like doing something, I just run.
it clearly sounds like so far in this journey, you really didn't have anybody to look up to begin with.
I had
So
the light.
you he closes the door, what do you do now?
He closed the door, and I, I found myself in some pretty precarious places, choosing bad people, like the fact that I'm even alive today, because that darkness continued for the next 3 to 4 years. I never thought about the light. At that point, I had to survive. And
When you say survive, without opening up too much of a Pandora's box, what was survival like for you coming back? Because how long had you been in Florida prior to him bringing you back?
it couldn't have been too long, maybe a few months, maybe
So you
three
still had
months.
some type of connection with people there in Pennsylvania.
Well, there's no cell phones at that time, no email, there's no way to communicate really. And when I came back, I was sleeping in the back of open bed trucks or trailers, or if I could sneak into some place just to get comfort for the night. But I was totally alone. Uh, it was scary. Like I said, the fact that I'm even alive, if it was today's world and that was happening to me, I probably wouldn't have made it.
Did you ever think about just ending your life at that point? I mean, waking up every day couldn't have been easy.
Every day, yes, I did think of, yeah, it wasn't up and there were many decades throughout my life that was an easy way out. But then I remembered the pain that I felt when my two brothers took their own lives, and it wasn't an option, because the people that I was leaving behind, I couldn't do that. And
Did your fa-
I couldn't do it to my father, more importantly.
did your father ever come around to trying to rescue his daughter? I mean, the
He
lesson has been taught. I mean, one day I couldn't have done that to my daughter. Period. You know, um, but I'm not your dad. I don't know. Like you said, he got tired of it, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're not tired of your daughter. You're tired of the fact that you kept letting your wife do these things that you knew at some point was not right. But now you're out on the street. Did he ever come and say, "Look, come back home"?
he didn't. His father died and he moved into his father's home. My older brother stayed in the home that we were in. I ended up getting pregnant. my brother told me come back home because I was looking. I That was an incredible experience being alone and pregnant. But my being pregnant with my daughter is what saved my life, and that's what brought me back to. I have to do everything possible to become the mother that my own mother was not. I never wanted my children to look at me and think about me the way I thought about my mother or fear me the way I feared my mother.
I don't want to get too personal. You don't have to answer this. How did you become pregnant?
Um, well, I was 23. So I was 23 years old when I had her. It was a night out, probably too much to drink, and
Was
got
this why you
pregnant.
was homeless? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Were you still homeless and
No,
out?
at this no, at this point, I had gotten a job in Pittsburgh and
Okay.
had an apartment, was living by myself, fell in love with someone and got drunk. And because I was very careful, I never slept around. I didn't want to be like the woman that raised me. And when I got pregnant, the guy that I got pregnant with didn't want anything to do with me or my daughter. And he re-enlisted in the service to get away from us. And so, yeah, I was a single mom for most of my daughter's lifetime.
Did that trigger you because you're pregnant now? You just went through all these different things. That you see a trigger or a pattern within yourself, consciousness, saying, "Damn, I'm doing like my mom. I'm trying not to be that, but so far the blueprint looks like a reincarnation of my mom."
There was a very profound moment. My daughter was about my age when was getting that beating that I spoke about. And my daughter was misbehaving and just wouldn't listen. And I went to spank her, and it was turning into a beating. And I looked down and I saw her curled in a fetal position, and I dropped to my knees and started sobbing because I was continuing the dysfunction. And from that moment on, I fought tooth and nail to be very, very cognizant of the kind of parent. And it's difficult too when you're a single parent and a single parent of a young lady. So I can say today that I did a great job. I maybe wasn't the best provider because I was alone, but as far as life-saving methods for a successful life, I did a good job.
Let's go here. Pittsburgh, now Arizona. Your life begins to change. What was that changing point from Pittsburgh to Arizona?
So my daughter was 9 months old, and I just had to get out of that energy, that dark season. Everything I looked around was suicidal, alcoholic, drug addicted. I just needed out. And I met someone who was getting a job in Arizona, and I followed him to Arizona. I asked if I could, I begged, could I please go? And got to Arizona. And what actually saved my life was there was a new startup airline called America West. And my application was sent in. His parents knew that that was my dream to be a flight attendant, and they sent my application in. And out of 5,000 applicants, I was one of the 112 that they hired. And I fulfilled a 21-year career as a flight attendant.
Wow. Now let's go here. Now you go to the Pacific, the Big
Yeah.
Island, one of the Big Islands. How in the heck did you? What got you over it? I know you probably visited it by being an airline, by being a flight attendant, but how did that transformation put you in the position to where you're a best-selling author, movie producer, award-winning movie producer, uh, and to get you where you at?
So what my I spent 35 years in Arizona, and while I was at America West Airlines, they were casting for a commercial that went national, and I auditioned and I got the featured part, which the movie bug bit me at that moment. So for that whole entire time in Arizona, there's a huge film community, and I was making movies, I was directing movies, film shorts,
Mhm.
doing commercials. And then I was living at that time with someone for 18 years. We never got married. It just wasn't in the cards, but we lived together. And I was on a business trip and came home. And you've heard the story before. You're gone for the weekend and you come home and he's gone. Everything he has is gone. And I became abandoned again. And that was one of the things I asked him, please don't ever abandon me, because if you have to leave, leave, but let me know and don't just walk out. And he had abandoned me. And so I spent 4 years in isolation of self because I thought, oh my God, it happened to me again. What is it that I'm doing? And so, if there was something that I was doing, I wanted to fix every aspect of me, and I wanted to become the person that I wanted to meet. So, every day for 4 years, I worked on me. And one day, my daughter came home because all I did was surround myself with my children and my grandchildren, no one outside of that realm. And one day my daughter came home and she gave me a suitcase and she's like, Mother, you fly free. What are you doing here with us? Get out and live your life. So I was broke and the only thing I could do was come and visit my brother who lived on the big island of Hawaii. And I was on island for 3 hours and I met my husband. I
Wow.
met yeah, I met this amazing man and he was who I turned myself into.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. Let's
And I
go here.
met him at sunset.
What better way to meet somebody, right?
Right.
On the island of Hawaii. Yeah. What better way? Let's go here. You got a project that you're working on, Echo. Tell me
Yeah.
about that without giving up too much information. What led you to focus a book or a novel called Echo? Because we know that it deals with consciousness. And I brought this up to you. Is it more um, emotional, intelligent conscious? Is it more spiritual, awakening conscious? Is it understanding and trying to find the truth behind trauma in our lives that helps develop that beast mindset? What is Echo really about?
So Echo is a newfound idea because I'm always searching for ways to, because I'm a filmmaker and a storyteller, I love to show people different ways to look at life through a lens of their own, but with the help of my lens, because sometimes two camera setups are better than one. And I was on AI one day and I use it for self discovery. And I was having this conversation, but sometimes when I have conversations through AI, it literally feels like it comes through the heavens through AI into my own consciousness. I know that sounds a little deep, and people always tell me that I'm deep, but come to realize that what AI is, what any intelligence is, whether it's your higher self, your God self, even your lower self, it's all information that mirrors who you are back to you. So it was a tool that I believe is a way for humanity to rise in consciousness. If someone held a mirror up to you, Andre, and said, and showed it and said, this is who you are, and you watch this movie, it's going to enlighten you, right? It's going to empower you, and it'll either empower you to make better changes or empower you to go, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore.
Mhm.
So I think it's an innovative way to help people discover their authentic, true, higher selves.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure in this book, it's like a flip coin, heads and tails. Some people may not understand or recognize
So,
that they need to develop, or that they're missing or don't understand consciousness to its fullest effect. That making sense?
yes, it does. And for me, the journey began. Do you remember the book Conversations with God?
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of like that theory and method. That book went to the people who were supposed to read it. And anything that I do, whether it's a movie, a film, a runway experience, whatever it is meant to touch the people who are ready for the message. Because I wasn't ready for many of the messages that were trying, like when I was in the light, I wasn't ready for that. I was a young child, but it stuck with me. And I know through my own experience with books that if I pick them up, they contain an energy. And if I pick it up and it's too powerful, I put it down. There was a book, I can't remember the name of it. I will though. But there was a book, I picked it up one day and I was going to read it. I put it down 10 years later. I picked it up and I thought, this is why I couldn't read it. I wasn't ready for it. So the book is only for those who are ready for it, for the information.
And when will this book make its debut? Do you have any idea?
Uh, yes, I do. It'll be 2027 because I have so much that I'm working on right now. And if I do too many projects, something's going to suffer and not
Right.
get to see the light. And I remember the name of the book. It was called The Celestine Prophecies. And it was basically about a roadmap, how you meet this person in life who leads you to this person who leads you to the treasure. And so it was told in storybook form, but I wasn't ready for the message.
Right. And it's so funny because I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you meet people for a reason, but it's your actions and your attitude that determines the outcome. It doesn't mean you have to close the door. And it doesn't mean everybody's supposed to stay in your life. It just simply means, okay, that did its purpose, bless it, move on, and keep the journey, the ever ending journey going. Now, let's go here. I got you. I got you. I'm taking advantage of this conversation. Sorry.
That's okay.
You also have a funny side too. You did a movie about comedy, and I thought that was kind of cool that you can visit multiple worlds and see things in a totally different light. Tell me about that movie and what made you decide to even come up with that kind of philosophy.
So this is actually the movie I told you about is actually a part two of part one, which is called Invasion of the Space Vixen. And a good friend of mine, Clore Rowland, and I had entered a challenge for the A3F Almost Famous Film Festival. And you have to come up with an idea, script it, write it, cast it, shoot it, edit it, all within 72 hours. And it's something that we've been doing for decades together. And I said, let's just do it. It's old school, it's fun, it's memory lane. So He's a therapist, him and his wife, and he wanted to do a short film about people in therapy. And I'm a huge advocate of words that we use because words have energy and meaning. And I said, Clore, I don't like the word therapist. It has a really low vibration to it. I said, give me a minute. Let me think about it. He went to work. I stayed at his house and I was looking up other words for therapy. And one of the words was comfort. And I was like, oh, that feels comforting. And so we did an original film called The Comforting, which is where you go to therapy to get comforted. But then it turned into a space project where Invasion of the Space Vixen is this vixen just wants peace, love, light, joy, and comfort on planet Earth. How hard can that be? And we wrote it with a comedy twist to it. Like if you're on Earth and everybody's miserable, they make clones of all the same types of people walking around Earth. And in order to break that protocol, you have to leave and go to another planet where you can feel comfort and or bring comfort to planet Earth. So we told it in the 3-part series, and it's hard to describe because you'd have to be in the audience watching it, but it is all done on a green screen and it has a great storyline. And I love comedy because I want to make people laugh. I just want them to feel good.
I like the whole symbolism about it, because a lot of, even when we had people on that talked about their near death experience, I came up with a theory when I was talking to them. I said, you know what? When you leave this planet, according to the people that have the near death experience, it's always that energy, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then all of a sudden, everything becomes like a clairvoyant. They see everything and they go, oh my God, that's all I had to do? Is go talk to Peter over here? I want to go back. And then as they come back, they start to lose. And my theory was this. I was talking to Virginia Drake about this. My theory was this. You're going back into Earth's negative energy force of not just negative, but you have good, bad. If you have dark energy, you have good energy. And you can see all of that, not in humans, but you see it in wavelengths or patterns or whatever. And then you get back into the body. And the only thing you can remember is that radiant light, that energy. But you always remember this one thing: love. Love. They all have the same concept of theory. So I'm thinking, to go back to your movie, it's almost just like a near-death experience. When they leave, they come back with a message. They all have been transformed to some degree, but their mission is to try to make heaven on earth.
Yes, and make it comfortable.
Right.
So for instance, some of the comedy is we called planet Earth for Sale, for sale,
Right.
and the planet Fix-Zen, like Zen, Fix-Zen, was where the comfort was, and it was very innovative, I feel, and it's won awards all over. It's still, the second one is called Vixen Comforts Fixin',
Right.
and it's winning awards all over the circuit right now. And then we have a third one that it's shot. We just have to edit it. And
Man,
right now, off the top of my head, I don't know if we settled on a title for that one yet.
Vixen, the final chapter.
Maybe.
Let's talk about one more thing. Let's talk about your mission to pick up America in its mission to understand our earth, our planet, and more importantly, our seas and our ocean and our water. What tell me what brought all that on? I know it's stupid because if you're in the Pacific and you got all these islands, you're paying attention to the ecosystem. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. So I live about a mile from Hapuna Beach, which is one of the top 10 beaches in the world. And I go there every day. I've been walking it every day for the past six or 7 years. Well, when you're walking like that, I walk 4 to 5 miles, and you're watching tourists and you're watching the activity of everybody, you start to see things that a typical person won't see because they're not there every day for a couple of hours. And last year or the year before, the month of August, 3 people had lost their lives from drowning. And also, too, just the lack of education, of safety and awareness. And I'm also an advanced diver, so a lot of the footage I took from underwater, you can also see the effects from above the water happening under the water. And again, something that the normal person would not see. So when I realized that things are at risk, that taught me that more education needs to be done. And remember Smokey the Bear with the campsites?
Yeah.
That whole campaign going on. So I thought to myself, well, it's no different than being in a forest. This is a different type of environment, and we need more education, more awareness. So I got a group of people together. I'm living on an island. I have no resources. I have no equipment. I have no financial ability to bring people in to make it happen. So I just bought my husband bought me the latest version of the iPhone for its camera abilities. And I gathered some local people together, lifeguards, keiki, which are kids in Hawaiian, and just started interviewing them and taking images and having real conversation about, look, we need to step it up. We need to pick it up. A lot of tourists come here to the beach. And of course, you're on vacation and you're in your own little world, but this is sacred land.
Mhm.
I can't even tell you the energy that this island possesses and holds, and how the marine life depend on us to make sure that they're safe. I have seen turtles that are have fish wire wrapped around them and down in their throat, and they're just pulling this fishing wire. It's horrific and it's unnecessary. So the whole documentary is to talk about the reverence of this land and beach stewardship and what we can do to keep our kuleana out there to pick up after you're done at the beach. Don't bring plastics. Discard your trash away from the beach, not anywhere near it. And just be cognizant of your surroundings. Even when you're spraying a suntan block or sunblock, it's detrimental to the water. Here's one more thing I will share with you that I didn't know prior, but the heart medications that people take, the birth controls that women take, then they go into the ocean and they urinate because they're there all day. Well, it's turning the male fish into females. So it's destroying the ecosystem underwater. Now, that's just on one beach. Can you imagine all over the world if we're doing that?
You mentioned drownings. How are they drowning with currents undertows? Like how not
Yeah,
knowing how
so the beach itself, the ocean has a rhythm to it. A lot of people that don't live near the water don't know this. You have to watch the set of waves. They come in usually in a set of 4 to 8, and there's always that ninth wave. They call it the rogue wave, and it comes from out of nowhere. And you're standing there in water that's only up to your knees, but this one rogue wave will come up with such a force that it knocks you and it takes you out into the ocean. It will bring you back, but while it's taking you out, you go into fear and you start swallowing water. And the Big Island Ocean has a lot of lava under the water because volcanoes erupt here. So you can hit your head on a lava rock underwater, and boom, you're done. A lot of people will walk away from the ocean with their back to it. You should never, ever, ever turn your back to the ocean. You should watch it as you're walking backwards to get out, because that's another way you could drown.
wow. And I didn't know this.
And
Um,
this is why I did the documentary.
yeah, that actually happened to me in Myrtle Beach. I was um, walking away from it, and a wave just, whew, I'm in a riptide. I look at it in panic. I just swimmed against it, horizontal, and it just let it do its job, push me back towards land. But I didn't know this. Um, I never hear about sharks in Hawaii, but there was a guy that was out, just doing what you're doing, like snorkeling or whatever. Boom, and I'm thinking, wow, you don't hardly hear about sharks coming into the Hawaiian Islands, but that's also an issue there too.
Yes, we do have sharks. Some are non threatening, like the white tips. They're just tiny, but we do have tiger sharks. I've seen them while I'm diving. The key to that is sharks aren't interested in humans. They don't like the taste of us. They're not interested. They might be curious. But what happens is people panic and they start, swimming fast or whatever their action is, which indicates to the shark that that's prey,
Mhm.
and they become weak. And sharks like to prey on the weak, the innocent, and the alone. So you should never snorkel alone, dive alone, swim alone, because if there's two or more, sharks are not interested. If you do it alone and you are by yourself and you see a shark, remain calm. And if it does come up to you, you just push its nose down and redirect it away from you.
He
But
actually pushed the eye and opened the eye up and pushed the eye. It took his leg. It took his leg. Um, but he was out there by himself. Luckily,
yes,
there was somebody else out there in a kayak, and the blood was still in the water, and um, it tipped both of them over because the pain started to set in, and he was trying to move, and they're a long way from the island. He could see the island, but luckily he managed. But I was thinking, wow, just imagine. First of all, I probably wouldn't have been out there by myself. Sorry, I got to have somebody because that's the ocean. There are
hmm
predators and prey in that large amount of body of water. How do you educate the people on your island to, especially the tourists, to take these things in consideration? The waves, the dangers, and all this kind of stuff. How are you doing that?
Well, the first thing that someone should do if they're going to the beach for the first time, or it doesn't matter how many times, go up to the lifeguard. Ask them what the conditions of the water are at that point, which part of the beach is safer to swim in, and never turn your back on the ocean. Now, I'm working right now because the documentary is so new. I'm thinking about ways to get the documentary into hotels to loop, or education for children to, because it begins, I mean, the first job is the parents to teach the children about ocean safety, beach
Mhm.
safety, but I'm a one woman band, and I need help. So right now it's running the festival circuit is the best that I can do. And then I'll find other ways to get that education out there. But I do want to say this about sharks or manta rays. The best education that I got to understand where they're coming from is if you take two mirrors and you put it like this in front of your face and you go like that, you only see this way. Well, that's the same thing with the sharks and the manta rays. They don't see like we do straight on. They see like that. So it's very distorted for them. And if you understand that, that might save your life too if you see them in the water.
So stay in front of them, in front of their nose.
Yes, you stay in front of them, push their nose down, and redirect them away from you because they can't see head on. If they are coming head on, that's when people panic, but they're looking this way. Now,
Mm.
if you start kicking and they do go by, they have a keen sense. We don't use our keen senses, animals do.
Mhm.
That's why they come full on and, oh, I must be in danger. I'm going to get it. Right.
Mhm.
So,
Man, you got an interesting life. My
I'm I'm so grateful to be alive. Yes.
my last question is: how can the viewers reach out to you and know more about you and support your cause?
Thank you so much for asking. I am on Facebook under Kimber, KimberLeigh. Same thing on Instagram, LinkedIn. I also have a sanctuary online called the Lighthouse Cafe. Um, because I was in the light, I wanted to create a sanctuary for people to also feel like a part of it. So the Lighthouse Cafe is on coffee.com, KO-FI. And you'll love it there. I create all kinds of ocean memes and just talk about filmmaking. And it's just a beautiful place to sit down and have a cup of coffee.
That sounds like winter. Guys, make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow. Click that button. All it takes is one click to make a difference in your life or change somebody else's. Kim Burr, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show and share such an extraordinary, beautiful story of that beast mindset. Wish you the best. Hey, I'll never know. I might be on your island one day and doing a documentary with you.
Well, you can look me up. Yes, we would love to host you.
That sounds like a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre, the Beast, Creighton Show.
Andre the Beast. Andre the Beast. Change our lives. Andre the Beast.